Hey everyone, it's Jeremy Callahan, and I just want to welcome you all to my webinar. So let's get started. I know you guys are all excited to learn how to get your ideas from an idea and into the App Store. So here we go. I am the app man, Jeremy Callahan. My friend named me that because I have developed a lot of apps, and I liked the name, so I ran with it. And I've developed numerous apps, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. So you probably have the same problem that I had when I came up with the first idea for my app, and that's how do you get started? Where do you go? If you were like me, you don't know any app developers or anybody that can program it. I mean, I'm a web developer, but I'd never programmed a mobile app, so I was learning completely new stuff. So maybe you've done things like you've Googled how to build an app, or you've watched YouTube videos. And basically after you do that, you see these how to build an app articles and watch some videos, and you're just left feeling very overwhelmed. I mean, you're overloaded with information. You don't know where to start. So I have a solution. I've made a 4-week video series on the steps necessary to get your app from an idea to being published in the iStore and the Android marketplace. Plus, I offer weekly trainings and coaching. There's a lot of myths about building apps. That it's hard to build an app. Well, it's not that hard to build an app. I mean, programming, you may not know how to program, but that's not a big deal. You can always hire a programmer. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not that difficult. The next thing is you have to be a tech genius. Again, you don't need to know any programming to know how to build an app. You just have to know what you want and be able to communicate that to programmers. The third myth is it's going to cost a lot of money. That's just not true. There's a lot of resources out there, particularly if you use developers overseas, that can save you a ton of money. I built an app for $2,000 that someone quoted me as being a $50,000 app. And then finally, the other myth is there's a huge learning curve. This is a bit true because there's so much information out on the internet and you just don't know where to begin. But with a program like mine, I'm going to eliminate that learning curve and teach you how to just what you need to know. So we're going to go over some high-level stuff here. I don't want anybody to get overwhelmed or feel insecure about anything. If you have any more questions or anything like that, you can always work with me. The video series that I have, the 4-week video series, will basically break down all the steps in further detail. And it'll be a lot more hands-on. It'll be me sharing my screen and actually going through stuff with you. Let me introduce myself. I'm the app man. I'm Jeremy Callahan. I taught myself web programming in 2001, and for about 10 years I was a web programmer. I worked on international brands. I worked on gaming sites. I worked for startups. I'm out here in the Silicon Valley, so I've worked on all different kinds of things. But in 2011, I was at the Giants game, and I came up with an idea that I called Ballpark Waiter, and that was so when I'm sitting there on my phone, I could order food and beverages, and then someone would deliver that down to my seat, so I would never have to get out of my seat. And it was just an idea, but I thought, well, I really want to learn how to program mobile apps, and I don't know how to do it, and I'm looking for an idea, and this is a good idea, so I ran with it. So for a second time, I taught myself how to build apps. And I mean, I did it all. I went to webinars. I went to meetup groups. I watched YouTube videos. I read just about everything you possibly could to figure out how to build apps. And since that time, I've developed several apps. I develop them for customers all over the world. And when I was building my last app, I thought, what if I documented the process of all the steps I take and I could teach other people? Because I meet a lot of people and they want to know how to get their app published. And I can't help everybody. But I know that if I formulated a plan and I put it down into steps that people could follow, anybody could do it. So the first thing I want to talk about is choosing the right technology. There's really two approaches when it comes to developing mobile apps. You'll hear a lot of people say, well, you have to develop it for iPhones and then you have to develop it for Android phones. Well, that's simply not true. But the first approach is the native approach, and that would be it would require 2 code bases. So basically, you're going to have one code base for Androids and one for iOS. Android and iOS are different. One is Object-C, which is iOS, and the other is Java, which is Android. So you have to have basically two sets of programmers. You have to have basically two sets of code. It's expensive, it takes longer, and you need two of everything. Now, Java programmers and Object-C programmers are very expensive as well. The second approach is my methodology. It's faster, it's cheaper, and it's better. Basically what we do is we use web technologies. So those are things like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These are probably things you've heard of. We take all those files after they're programmed and we put them into a product called PhoneGap. Now PhoneGap's an amazing product. Basically what it does is you put all those files in and it spits out two files, one for Android and one for iOS. So basically you're left with two files that you can put into the App Store and the Google Marketplace and you're ready to go. Plus, HTML and JavaScript developers are easy to find and they're way cheaper than Java and Object-C programmers. So, where to get started? Well, the first thing I want you to do is think about yourself in a different way now. I want you to think about yourself as a product developer. You obviously have a good idea. You want to develop the idea, but you don't really have anything at this point in time. So you need to develop a product. And the way to do this is to think about what the user experience and the flow will be of your app. You know, these are things like registration pages, logins. Will you be taking payment? How will the user view data on your app? Will they be swiping through stuff, scrolling through stuff? Just general stuff like that. And then once you kind of have that down, start going around and looking at other apps that you see out there that you like or websites and, borrow from them a little bit. You're going to need to create a specification. Now, this is where a lot of people start their eyes gloss over because, one, they're not product developers, and two, they're not really technical writers or want to create a specification. But I'm going to tell you something. This doesn't need to be overly complicated. You could use something like Microsoft Word or PowerPoint. Heck, you could do drawings on a napkin. You just need something that indicates the flow because you got to have a plan for your developers. No developer that's any good is just going to start programming based on some idea you told them. And then finally, ask yourself if you need a back end. Do you need a way to manage users or import data or anything like that? And this would be done from like a website traditionally. It wouldn't be done through an app, but you would put things in the website in the back end so you could just manage users, send emails, and things like that. So let's talk about making it look awesome because everybody wants their product to look really awesome. And you're probably not a designer, but there's a lot of tricks you can do to look like a pro designer. So the first thing I kind of mentioned earlier is to find apps that you love. Go through your apps in your phone and look at things like the registration page. Look at things like the splash pages and kind of borrow some of those ideas. All you need to do is take a screenshot of the app or the page you like and then put that screenshot into a PowerPoint document and put some arrows on it, Cut this, copy paste, things like that. Another thing you can do is you can do a web search for Template Haven, and this will just come up with a bunch of mobile templates that are kind of out of the box that you can use. Things like colors and stuff like that. Do a Google search also for a logo design questionnaire. And what this will do is this will bring up a questionnaire that's about 30 questions long, and you probably only need to answer about 10 of them, but it'll be a good starting point of what you want your brand to be and things like that, because we're going to outsource all this work. We're going to use something like Fiverr or 99 Designs or a site like that. And so when you post your job, it's going to be really key that you have specifics of what you're posting so the designers and the developers know exactly what to do. Finally, I use something called Style Tiles, and you can look that up as well. Style Tile is it's an overview of the entire site styles, the colors, the fonts, the borders, everything like that, what the buttons will look like. It'll give you a nice visual understanding of how things are supposed to flow and really start to pull the project together. So the next step, once you have all that in place, you have a spec, you have some designs, you're going to need to find some developers. Now, you can do a number of things. You could find somebody on Craigslist, you could find an American, you could find a student. What I like to do, and is the best way to save money, is I like to post on Elance or Odesk. So basically in the posting, you're going to include the hours to estimate the worksheet. So what this is an Excel document I have, and it has all the hours listed out. Not the hours, excuse me, the tasks listed out, like registration page, login page. And you can send this to them in like an entire list. And then what the developers will do is they'll put hours onto each item. So you can say like, oh, this whole project is going to take 120 hours. For things like Elance and Odesk, all the hours and the payments are tracked on the website. So, once you hire a developer, everything is done there in-house, and you communicate kind of through there. You can also use Skype. I use Skype a lot. There's kind of the domestic versus offshore argument. Having somebody here is a lot nicer, but it also costs a lot more money. And then there's also the question of, do you hire an individual or do you hire a firm? Because a lot of times you just want to deal with one person, but there are scenarios when, if that one person becomes unreliable, you're kind of left holding the bag. So a firm is a good way to go with that. I personally like offshore developers. I like to pay a little bit more than $20 an hour, so anywhere from $20 to $30 an hour for an offshore developer. I usually go with individuals as well because you get higher quality. And then once you kind of have all these, people will start posting. You'll get a lot of posts. You'll probably get 50 to 80 people posting back that they want the job. A lot of them will be generic, so you can just discard those. But you'll narrow it down to 2 or 3 people, and then you can just do some Skype interviews with those people. You can get them to give you references and things like that. And then once you decide on a developer, they'll just start working off your spec. So there is a way to manage developers as well. And I have a whole video on this where we'll get very detailed into it. We use a service called GitHub to manage all the code. And so basically what that does is that backs up our code and stores our code on a nightly basis. So we don't have to worry about, a fire or something taking down our code base. The developers, once they've done their work, they check their work into GitHub. And then we use a product called PhoneGap, which I talked about earlier. So basically, GitHub and PhoneGap sync together. And on the PhoneGap webpage, there's a barcode. And what happens is all you do is take a photo. You use a barcode scanner on your phone, and you scan the code in, and that will put the app right onto your phone. And it'll give you a development version loaded onto your phone, and then you can test from there. So it's a really nice way to go about it because the developers are just developing it on a nightly basis, checking code in, and then you're able to update it and review what they've done. So once you've done all that, and you've tested everything, and you've got the things to a place where you're very happy with them, then you're just going to want to publish and start marketing. So we have a whole video series on this as well. How to create developer accounts in iTunes and Google Play, how to maximize for keywords and descriptions and screenshots, how to make a product video really cheaply. I have my personal marketing plan. I call it the Erica plan because it's so simple. My daughter actually does it for me. It's a lot of social media and blogging and things like that. And then, of course, we'll want to show you some reporting tools as well, so that you can measure your results. You can find out how many people are downloading and installing your app. So again, I offer a coaching and training program. It's a 4-week video series with coaching and training by me. We go in depth on all kinds of details. A lot of the stuff I just glossed over, we'll actually get into and talk about for 45 minutes to an hour. I share my screen. I show you how to set accounts up. I show you how everything works. I post a weekly video every Tuesday. It's about 45 minutes to an hour long. And then on Wednesday, we do an hour-long call where we can just discuss specific needs and questions that you might have. So anyways, I'm really happy that you watched my video today. There's a link below. Go ahead and click it if you're interested in the program and getting more information. I look forward to working with you, and I hope you move forward with your app idea. It's an exciting time. Anytime you start to put your idea into action, you're really going to start to see a lot of synergy and movement and just excitement around that product. So go ahead, click on the video, and Thanks for attending the seminar. Thank you.